So we'll begin with item number 1 on the agenda, which is election of chair. So could I have a proposer to nominate someone?
I propose Councillor Gladstone.
That's second. Yeah. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the licensing panel. I'm Councillor Ron Batstone and I'm the chair of the panel. Councillor Kira Bentley and Oliver Ford also join me today on the panel. A few statements to make before we proceed with the meeting. Please can everybody ensure that all their mobile telephones and any other devices are switched to silent during the meeting? In the event of a fire, the Democratic Services Officer will lead attendees outside the building, where they should remain until directed to return. The meeting will resume once all attendees have returned to the meeting room and are ready to continue. If you have to ask a question in the meeting, you should raise your hand to alert me. Please do not speak unless invited to, and please do not interrupt other speakers. There's nobody joining you remotely. Are there any questions at this stage? Right, the procedure for this meeting was included in the agenda pack. Could I ask everybody, have you understood the procedure?
Yes.
Now begin this item and I invite the licensing officer to present their report.
Apologies, Chair. Very briefly, do we have any declarations of interest?
Oh, right. Do we have any declarations of interest? No.
No.
You present
I
your
certainly can. Thank you very much, Chair. The application before the licensing panel this morning is for an application for the grant of a new premises licence applied for by Oxford Rugby Football Club Limited at the premises situated at North Finchley Village, Oxford, OX20NA. The application is for a time-limited licence which would commence on the 21st of June 2024 and cease on the 23rd of June 2024 if granted. As per your report, the licensing panel must determine the application with a view of promoting the 4 licensing objectives with regard to the Council's licensing policy and the Secretary of State's guidance. The 4 licensing objectives are prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance, public safety, and the protection of children from harm. Details of what is being applied for by the applicant are contained in paragraph 3.4 of your report at the bottom of page 9. The full application form and plan are attached at Appendix A, starting on page 22. The applicant has also provided some additional information in relation to the football tournament, which is at Appendix E, starting on page 35. During the statutory 28-day consultation period, a number of representations were received. Those are attached at Appendices C and D. The representation at Appendix C, which is page 33 by Miss Erginelli, has been withdrawn and they should therefore not be taken into account. The only valid representation remaining is on page 34 from a Mr. Crouch. During the statutory consultation period, the applicant agreed with the licensing authority some conditions, and they are detailed at paragraph 3.6. Obviously, the panel could adopt those conditions if they were minded to grant the application or add to them from the Council's pool of licensing conditions. The relevant parts of this Council's licensing policy are set out at paragraph 4.1, with the relevant sections of the Secretary of State's guidance set out at paragraph 4.2. We were notified that 3 persons were attending for the applicant, which is good. Can I just check that I have Stuart Kennedy, Ben Asfield and Mary Bagwell? Excellent, all present and correct. The objector has stated he will not be attending. I confirm that the application was advertised as per the requirements of the Licensing Act 2003. Unless there are any other questions, Chair, in relation to the report, but I don't have anything further to add at this time. Thank you.
Right, do either of the panel have any questions for the licensing officer?
I've got some, if I may, Councillor. First of all, just to say thanks very much for coming along, and I'd never have imagined we'd be talking about an archaeologist football tournament. Actually,
yeah, that was interesting.
Are these questions for licensing?
No, these are questions for the.
You will have an opportunity for that later.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you very much. Yes. Sorry, I'll take all that back and come back to you about exactly the same comments later.
Right, do you have any questions for
the licensing officer? No, I'm all right.
I have a quick question about the presence of the designated competent person.
Premises supervisor.
Thank you. I understand it would be unreasonable to expect that person to be on site 24/7, but what are the other legal conditions put in place to make sure that the right things
Yeah, each premises license that sells alcohol must have a DPS. They shorten it down to it is a mouthful. They don't have to be on the premises at all time, but they are ultimately responsible for what goes on at that event. If there was a complaint about an event or at a licensed premises, the first person we would go to is that designated premises supervisor. In terms of other legal responsibilities, obviously the legal responsibility to not sell alcohol to persons under the age of 18, for example. There are a load of mandatory conditions attached to all licenses, but all licenses don't have the same conditions on. So, for example, the conditions that the applicant has agreed with the licensing authority signal report, you may wish to adopt those. For example, you might want to go beyond 18 and go to challenge 25 for the alcohol, but that's entirely a matter for the panel. So the legal obligation, hope you would agree with what I just said, is that there must be a DPS who's responsible for that event, and they must promote those 4 licensing objectives, as must we all when we're dealing with licensing.
And does their obligation finish just purely at the licensing, so not health and safety?
No, for what we would expect as a council, hope in some sort of coordinated fashion. There's an event organizer or a premise license holder is subject to all sorts of legislation. They'd be subject to food hygiene, food safety, noise legislation. They're subjected to it all. But obviously, we're focused on the actual licensable activities.
Okay.
And as you can see from your report, none of the other what we call responsible authorities, such as environmental health or planning or the noise team, have objected to this application.
Thank you.
Okay. Do any of the applicants have any questions for the officer?
No, I don't.
Um,
Do you have any questions? No.
So if there are no further questions, I'll now invite the applicant to present their case. I don't know how you're going to do it.
I'd like the lads to present the case because they are the Winkleman Cup representatives. If that is all right.
Yes, so just to give we can happily answer any questions, but just to give an overview of what the actual event is, because I understand it's a very unusual event. So the Winkleman Cup started in Austria, between a few teams in Austria and Germany, a few archaeological firms that decided they wanted to start this tournament. It started in 1991, and then it sort of built and built. More teams came, more countries joined. We had someone from the original tournament then moved to Oxford and joined Oxford Archaeology. So he took a team over. So we were the first UK team to join the Winkleman Cup. And so in its 31st edition of the tournament, it's the first time it's come over to the UK. And I myself have been going to it for 15 years, and I wanted to give something back to this community by hosting it. By organising this tournament, it's an entirely non-profit venture. We're simply trying to put on a lovely event and also promote Oxford and the local area. The total cost of this is around 17.5 grand, and our income is around 17.5 grand. We are just trying to break even so we can put this on. The funding is from a very small fee that we charge them in order to play in the tournament, and about 4.5 grand of sponsorship from archaeological firms and construction firms that are related to the field. The participants are, being an Archaeological World Cup, is made up of archaeological firms and universities that students of archaeology. It's very much a big community event, but it is primarily a sporting tournament, but it's also a big community coming together. We've got friends that we've seen for 10, 15 years that we haven't seen for a while that we just all join, and it's very much a harmonious, lovely thing. It's not a rowdy football tournament. It's very much just a gathering of friends. With regards to the noise levels and some of the concerns that have been raised with the complaints, I think to point out, as you know, it's not the Ibiza weekend, which some people seem to have thought it was. But the way that people are coming, we have, got it written down. We have 678 people that will be attending the event, who will be camping at the event. Traffic wise, these are going to be spread out. There's around a third of the teams will be arriving on the Thursday, around 2/3 on the Friday, and they'll all be camping over throughout the event. So there's not going to be an issue with people leaving late at night. I think the only people that would be leaving during the days, we have around 25 people, mostly from Oxford Archaeology, that will be leaving to get the bus back or live locally. The rest of them will be camping over, so they will not be leaving the premises late at night. They will be spread out as to when they're leaving. There's around a third leaving on the Sunday, with a third on the Monday, and then a few on Tuesday and Wednesday. So most of the teams being from Germany and France. They're making a bit of a holiday of it, so they're going to explore the sites of Oxford. So part of what we're doing is promoting a lot of Oxford, other pubs or just various establishment places to see. Noise-wise, we have the entertainment on the Friday and Saturday night, which will be in the form of a DJ that will be inside one of the buildings at Dollar FC. And we have a marquee attached to the building, but all the DJ will be within the building, and it will just be recorded music rather than a live band. And all of that will stop by 12:30. We will be monitoring the sound throughout during this, and well, especially after 11 o'clock, we'll be monitoring the sound as was recommended by the environmental officer. And we will be giving out flyers to the local community with my phone number to contact if there is any kind of issues or if they need someone to talk to. I think that pretty much covers it, unless you have more questions.
Yes, thank you for that. Got either Oliver, you can now ask your question.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Been waiting patiently. When I looked at this, I mean, it's an age thing. I normally in bed by 10, so it did seem a very late drink license, 1 o'clock in the evening, and I'm just wondering whether that's actually necessary. What made you think that 1 o'clock was an appropriate time?
Traditionally, that is how often these tournaments will often go later. Because some of it is made up of students and younger people that can stay up longer than I certainly can. So if we were to offer a time that late, then they would look at going elsewhere. But
which might cause,
which would be worse than us keeping them contained in there.
Okay. You mentioned about the music, and you said the DJ would be in the building. Will there be speakers in the marquee at all or not?
Only for PA for within the marquee.
So the music won't be played?
No, that'll just purely be for speeches before and after. We have a little closing and opening ceremony.
You also mentioned that you would be monitoring the music sound level, and particularly after the time when it becomes more critical, 9 o'clock, for example. How are you going to do that? What level of music, what level of sound is allowed?
I've got an idea. I haven't exactly looked into the levels, but I know there's an app you can get on the phone that can measure it. So I'll be going around to various points at certain time points to measure it, and then check what's acceptable.
See what guidance, perhaps there's guidance somewhere. Turning now, you talked about underage drinking, of course, the zero allowance for that. Now, obviously, in that case, for those, I think, challenge 25, those under 25, they should be asked for photo identification. First of all, have the staff been made aware of that? And secondly, given that some of the people who are going there are from foreign places with different regulations, have they been informed that they may be asked for photo identification?
And we can make sure we do, because we are in regular contact with all the teams and particularly their team captains, because they have a designated person for all the communications. So we will be sending out an information pack with everything they need to know, which will also include stuff like air horns, that kind of thing. Because there's certain things that we're banning to make sure that noise within the campsite is going to be quiet as well.
Yes, air horns and journeying. And then you mentioned during your presentation about consultations with residents and the parish council. Have those taken place, and have you had any feedback?
The parish council, we have actually a member of the rugby club who is on the parish council, so they are aware, and we've not had any feedback in the negative respect. So we're presuming that that's okay.
Okay. And finally, the objector, Daniel Crouch, unfortunately is not here today. Have you had any discussions with them since he issued the objection or not?
No. I personally, one of the members of our club is actually a personal friend of his, so it was quite a difficult situation. We didn't want to aggravate it by going to him. We thought the member of the club would perhaps talk to him and explain what was going on. I thought he had.
Okay, but you're not sure?
No, I'm not sure. I mean, I can go and personally go and see him, talk to him about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Bentley.
Thank you. I was also interested in the safeguarding provision to stop children, but I understand a lot of your visitors will be coming over on that, so presumably they don't have children with them.
Because if they are either athletic students or professionals, everyone will be over 18.
Yeah, because it is a difficult situation. I know from my own experience, if you've got people camping with children, it's difficult to, if the adults are drinking, supervising the children can sometimes be an issue. So that's reassuring. Thank you.
But we are also making sure that everyone has a wristband. That's part of the registration process. So everyone camping has a wristband.
Outsiders coming in, because I'm guessing you haven't got terrace fencing and security guards.
No.
Rugby clubs usually are quite cheap. Are people going to come in from outside? Was my question. But if they've got these vans, presumably
anyone that's, because we have I think it's 25 people that are due to come on just for the day, which would be more of the local, obviously the archaeology ones. There will be a separate day wristband, so we can identify that they're separate. So anyone, we will have people going around to check in, and if they haven't got wristbands, then there'll be questions.
And given the situation that you're in, it's semi-rural. I know the objector has withdrawn their objection formally, but I wonder what provision or what your feelings are about disturbance within the neighbourhoods and minimising that.
Well, we don't envisage that many people are going to actually leave throughout the weekend once they're there, because we have everything they need there. Because we have caterers coming in, we're doing breakfast, there'll be lunch and dinner available, so it will just be a few people maybe going out to the shops occasionally, but there's not going to be a lot of people going around, and certainly not late at night.
Thank you. And making the site tidy afterwards. Inevitably, there's debris, etc.
Part of as is tradition at the Winkler, all of the teams will be given recycling bags and rubbish bags, so they're then more collected themselves. And then at the end of the weekend, when they go to leave, they'll put it in. So our ditch corridors, and everyone's always been very environmentally friendly. These events are one of the things that gets promoted. So we will have people going around to clear up as necessary, but I'd be very surprised if we've had a huge amount to do that way.
Thank you. Last one, in line with this council's commitment to reducing waste and single-use plastics, have you made any provision to ensure that's been met with recyclable materials, etc.?
You've got your wonderful plastic mugs and
oh yes, so part of the we have designed a pint glass that has plastic pint one that has sponsors on it and has our lovely logo on it, so everyone kind of voluntarily but has to buy this.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Does our licensing officer have any questions for the applicant?
I do, but I'm Yeah, okay. I've just got two. I thought I had more, but just going back to the monitoring of the noise. Now you mentioned, I think you said you'd been in contact with the environmental protection officer. Did they suggest a decibel limit or a noise limit? Because I appreciate what you're saying about how you could go around and monitor the noise, but obviously you don't know what a good level is, then it's not really going to have much of a impact on the event, if you see what I mean. So if it's set at 300 decibels, that's obviously too loud. If you don't have the sort of specified limit in your risk assessments and your event plan, then what sort of level are you aiming for?
The recommendation only came through a couple of days ago. It didn't specify level. I'm not that familiar with what the level should be, so I'm happy to take recommendations or.
Well, I'd probably recommend you go back to the Environmental Protection Officer and ask them for their advice as to what an acceptable level is in quite a rural location. In terms of actually monitoring it, I know you can do it on an app because I monitor things on an app. Are you recording those measurements anywhere? And
yeah,
have you decided which sort of locations on site you're going to be measuring from? Is there going to be off-site measurements? Is it just on-site? I mean, how's that going to work?
We haven't set them yet, but I'd imagine we'd have a few in certain locations, particularly getting nearer to the village side and near to where the horses side is from the campsite. And we would be keeping a log of it, because I believe it's one of the other recommendations or requirements from
I would strongly suggest speaking to the Environmental Protection Officer, because see, they're the experts in noise and they'll be able to advise you what would be a potentially acceptable level. Obviously, you don't, they haven't made an objection, so it would only be an advisory thing, but obviously they're the experts, and so if it does still sound like it's too loud, you can then adjust it on the night and take noise measurements from various places around us. Just one last question about, you've probably seen from the objections, a lot of people are under the misunderstanding that this was going to be a repeat of what happened to the event last year. How long has this event been in the planning? Has there been any kind of proactive sort of engagement with the local community and sort of telling them that this isn't the same event as last year and it is a football tournament, etc., etc.? I just wonder what the sort of level of engagement with the local community was in terms of that.
Well, the events, we've been planning this since 2020 because we did have it all prepared and then COVID happened and we planned it again. So that we've been better part of this time around. It's been a good 6 months of very in-depth planning. With regards to the local village, we haven't really had that much communication directly, other than the advert that went into the paper as part of the licensing requirements. And we weren't particularly envisaging that people would confuse the two. We thought it would be quite clear.
Well, see, they have confused.
Yes,
they have confused.
It wasn't something we were envisaging that people would think we would.
So I'd probably, again, this is just a recommendation. If because this is a time limited license and this is going to lapse on the 23rd of June, if we're in the situation next year to apply earlier and do more kind of local engagement, that might sort of put some members of the public minds at ease.
As we're doing giving them a contact issue, if there be any sound issues, we can include a little description of what this is to hopefully put their mind at ease a bit as to what's going on.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Since we don't have any of the objectors here or any other people, I think we can go straight to the licensing officer making a concluding statement.
I have nothing to add to what I've
Yeah,
already
nothing
said.
to add. Would the applicants like to make a concluding statement or any further comments?
I think we're
So
everybody's happy that they've been fully been able to say everything that they want to say. In that case, please could I we will now make our decision, and this should be done privately, with only the members, the Democratic Services Officer and the Legal Officer present. We may call attendees back if we have any further questions, but if you can wait in the reception area, we will then collect you and bring you back in when we've made our decision.
Thank you very much.
There we go. There we go. Let's just double check we are in line. Yep, we are back live, Chair.
Right, thank you, everyone. Yes, the panel have agreed that we will allow the application for the premises license as specified in section 3.4 of the report, together with the conditions specified in section 3.6 of the report. So that is in fact generally, yes, we have no further conditions that we need to impose. Just a couple of comments though. It might be better in future if you make applications to make them give us a lot more notice so that we don't have these issues at the last minute. And also perhaps more consultation with local residents to try to alleviate the need for panels such as this. But apart from that, we accept the decision note. Does anybody else need it?
Just that the mandatory conditions as well won't be
Or the
applied.
mandatory conditions,
Mandatory.
again, in the agenda.
Yeah.
Right. Please be aware that the full decision notice will be sent out to attendees once it's been processed, which will be fairly soon.
Yeah.
Because your event is coming up fairly shortly. Document will be sent out electronically unless a paper copy is requested. Electronically is fine for you. All parties have a right to make to appeal the decision made today. Any appeal should be made to the Magistrates Court within 21 days of receipt of the decision notice. That would only be our objector, I suspect. Yeah. Before I formally close the meeting, are there any outstanding questions for myself or for the officers?
Not from me.
Right, thank you. The meeting is now closed at 12:30.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank